What's up, everyone? Welcome to 3 out of 10 anime fans recommend you check out this podcast if you ever get reincarnated into another world, aka 3 out of 10 anime. This show is all about having fun conversations to rank anime based on a standard set of criteria so they can be organized, compared, and contrasted. We discuss a different show or movie each week, so whether you're a seasoned weeb or new to the genre, we know you'll have a good time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're excited you're here. Here is the agenda for each of our episodes. We start by giving a first impressions of the episode. We describe what it was to us in one sentence. Then we go over into our personal enjoyment rankings. So we each rank the show on a scale of 1 to 10 about how much we liked it based on our own personal rubrics. Then we have a technical assessment of the show where we all collectively decide on 4 different categories of technical accomplishment, and we rank them 1 to 5 till we get a 1 out of 10 combined ranking for the technical score of the show. Finally, at the very end, we give some comparisons and recommendations to other shows you should check out, and we announce what we're doing next week. I'm Brett.
I'm Skyler.
I'm Braydn.
We are your hosts from the United States. We each have varying opinions, tastes, and backgrounds, which should result in some interesting and relatable dialogue, no matter who you are. Joining us as special guests this week is Bridget. Bridget is a professional musician. She is a lifelong harpist. Very excited to have her today, especially for this episode. Bridget, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
And then we also have Sonny. Sonny is our resident weeb. He's seen over thousands and thousands of episodes of anime, has seen tons of anime movies, and has lots of awesome insights. He's a great personality, and Sonny, we're excited you're here.
Just look at his hair. Look at that guy.
Guys, I'm just weeb.
We're grateful you're all joining us for our discussion about this week's movie, not a show. We are talking about Belle, the musical drama that, as of recording of this podcast in January, is currently airing in theaters, and we're going to discuss the whole thing. So, spoiler warning, expect spoilers. If you don't want any, go watch the movie, come back to the podcast. So without further ado, let's jump in. How would you all describe your impressions of Belle in one sentence?
Well, it is a it's an anime, but it strains that a little bit and using mixed media to tell the Beauty and the Beast story concerning virtual reality. That's for me.
Okay. All right. I'll go next. To me, Belle was a gorgeous work of art that you will enjoy more if you watch it as such rather than watching it as a movie. That's my one sentence impression.
There you go.
Sonny, what's your one sentence?
Pretty much like a, I don't know, emotional musical train. That's how I saw it.
Nice.
All right.
Yep.
I love it.
Straight up, just very emotional and musical. It's a musical for sure for me.
Yeah, definitely. Sky.
Oh boy. An indecisive girl figures out when to sing and when not to sing.
Great. Good job, Skyler. You did it. Good job.
Bridge.
I love it.
My one sentence would be Belle is a modern, very anime retelling of Beauty and the Beast with a refreshing, different twist.
All right. I love it. So, what do you all rate Belle in terms of personal enjoyment? How much did you like it on a scale of 1 to 10? Let's start where we ended. Bridget.
Okay, I gave Belle for personal enjoyment a 7. Do I say what I enjoyed about it now, or do I just give the rating of it?
Just the rating for now. We'll give the reasons.
A little bit like why just a little like what a 7 means to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I really liked, obviously the music was the best part. I also really liked the art and the contrast of design between the different like worlds. And I liked that it was like the Beauty and the Beast tale, kind of, but it wasn't. And I liked that it was like not a romance, and it was given a new take with it not being a romance, but it actually was, in my opinion, something even more impactful than a romance. And I really liked the characters. I thought the characters were a great part of it, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But
Mhm.
I thought there was a lot of really impactful parts, and yeah, I almost watching it. I was almost felt like I was more interested in the storyline in the real world than what was going on in the U. I like cared more about like I didn't really care about finding out who the beast was until the very end. I cared more about like her relationships with her dad and her friends and the boy and like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, it was just like different, but I enjoyed it. A 7.
Sweet. Okay, I also gave it a pretty close. I gave it a 7.5. And for me, a 7 show to me is a really good show that keeps me interested. And I'm going to say show, but it's a movie. It's a really good show that keeps me interested, entertained, and engaged. But there are some things that seriously bothered me about it. And then an 8 for me is like one that I seriously enjoyed, but it had some flaws or things that stood out enough to distract me from the good aspects. So it kind of lands in between those of a 7 and an 8, and I'll go into the reasons why after. But that's where it lands for me. A really great show that kept me interested, but had some things that really bothered me. And Sky.
So my enjoyment rating, I gave it a 6.5. 6 for me is an okay show. I generally enjoyed the show, but it has many problems, or there were things about it that severely detracted from my experience. A 7 for me is a show that I liked and I will recommend, but I probably won't watch it again.
All right, fair. Braydon.
So, on my ranking, I gave it a 4 out of 10. A 4 for me being the threshold just below where I would recommend a show, and I would not recommend Belle. So, there was stuff about it that I quite liked, but I don't think there's anything really much of worth to like carry on talking about this show after, of course, our podcast because we're gonna dish it out for you guys here and hash it out for sure. I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
All right, Sony.
Well, I'm on the higher end of this one. I give it an 8.5. Um, honestly, I really like this. We know we just watched it like maybe like a week ago, but I've seen it 3 times in theaters already.
Wow, really?
Oh, nice.
Okay.
And I
That's
enjoyed
great.
it every single time. So, an 8 is I love the show and I want to know more. As for the movie, a 9 is one of the best. I can literally daydream about it. I wouldn't say I would literally daydream about it, but I've been playing the song every single day. Every single day. So,
And
I would give
now,
it 8.
wait,
Mine was
which song is
8.5.
that?
Gale, the song.
Which one?
Gale?
Gale?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yep.
Actually,
Yeah.
I have like all 3 on repeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's transition then, and if people would allow me, I'd like to start just by saying that if the music was not what it was, incredible. I think the music was incredible. If it was not incredible, my enjoyment of this show would be like a 4, like a 3. It would
Oh,
be
Same.
low.
it
But
would
the
have lost a
music
few points.
but the music was mind-blowingly good, especially certain tracks. I actually have a few tracks that I really really loved, and the tracks I really really loved were Utayo, which Gales,
Gales. Yep.
Fleeting Days, Social Warfare, which are both just instrumental ones but that really stood out to me. Lend Me Your Voice, Kokoro no Sobani, A Million Miles Away, specifically with the visuals. That's the end song with the whales and the
Yeah.
lights and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And then Faces in the Rain, which for me was the most emotional track on the whole album. It's the one that kind of closes out with like they're standing against the father. But there were 2 tracks I did not like and I can't stand to listen to, and that's You, the like intro, the big song at the beginning, and then Blunt Words. I actually really don't like those 2 songs. But that's what I'll say about the
Yeah.
music. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not really like my taste of music, but it was nice. It was nice to listen to, for me at least.
I just hated the jazz part of it, or that one, that back music. I don't know. I didn't like that part.
Yeah, there were
The-
two
the
jazz
slingshot
tracks.
the slingshot one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wrote down that one reminded me of like a Pixar movie soundtrack, like Incredibles or Monsters Inc.
yeah.
Like it really
Oh,
reminded me
yeah.
of that. It did.
It just threw me off from the whole ship
Yeah, that's
movie.
Monsters
Yeah, it
Inc.
was kind of out of place. Yeah, didn't really fit in.
Anime tends to ruin themselves whenever they try to use a saxophone. There's very few times that they use a saxophone correctly.
Except for Cowboy Bebop.
That's what I mean. It's
Sure,
rare.
Yeah.
It's rare because Shield Hero, the saxophone ruined it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You know, I
do
actually
not
kind
speak of that with me.
I kind of appreciated the jazz track in this one because it was kind of out of place, but it was also when they were in the U, so it kind of was like that and I liked the diversity of tracks they were trying to
Yeah.
create, but I will admit it was pretty far out of place since the rest of the out there tracks were more digital scape y. But
So, one thing about me is that I did not listen to the soundtrack after. And so I think that, yeah, there was one track where, yeah, the saxophone was fine. It matched, it fit in place. There was nothing problematic with it. But there was another place, and this is probably the one that you guys are talking about, where, yeah, it felt like it was a little out of place compared to the rest of what was going on.
Yeah, I couldn't listen to the soundtrack either. I finished it like an hour ago, so
Fresh in your brain then.
yeah, it's a sparkling gem. But yeah, that especially that last song. Like I think out of her songs, I like the first one the best.
the U
Is
one
that
where she's
the
on the whale with the red dress.
um
opening
no,
track.
no, the first one in like as the story progresses and she like first logs in or whatever and sings there.
I think that's
And she's
Gale.
Oh,
That-
like her debut
That's-
one?
If that's Gale, that's the one. That's the one for me, honestly.
Yeah.
It just like I don't know. There's something about her wandering into a new world and like being told that she doesn't have to be herself anymore, that she can be a new person. And that's the first thing she does. Like, oh my gosh, I love
What?
it so much.
One thing that I found weird about that, though, or the way it came across to me, is that she sang once, logged out, and then gained 23 million followers almost instantly, or within the course of a day.
That's how
Yeah.
going
It's
viral
it's
goes,
the
though.
internet, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Anything
You
can
get one
watching.
good
happen.
video.
They
Anything can happen.
they were definitely trying to like drive in a point about like commentators on on videos and thumbs up, thumbs
Yeah.
down. And they like really made that an artistic note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That they were
feel like
dropping
that
in,
came in more later, though.
Well, like I think yeah, it was a bit egregious, yet allegedly there was like thousands of videos from people watching her in that first recording, and so those videos went everywhere. And then there's a following for your avatar, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
And
That
then
makes
that
sense
number
to
just
me.
goes crazy high to get the story rolling. Like I
Mhm.
get that. I understand
Well,
it. It's a little
well,
hackneyed, but yeah.
Sure, and that I'm fine with, where it's like, hey, yeah, this thing, like, or like as she's doing like the montage of her singing and doing different things, and then you see that follow count just spike
Yeah.
up. That would make way more sense to me than, oh, logged in for the first time ever, sang a song for 3 minutes, logged out, 23 million followers.
Yeah, I think the
That's-
montage was meant to like show a passage of at least a little bit of time because her friend who was doing all of her like marketing stuff, I think we were made to assume that her friend was like promoting her a lot, and that's why you
Yeah.
saw a lot of like of the pictures of her in like different outfits and stuff and like different things
Yes.
going on. I
Well,
think that we were meant to
yes.
think that some time had passed.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. For that, I have no problem with that. And if the follow count was associated, like if you saw the follower count racking up like it was during that montage, I would have no problem.
Okay.
Oh,
The
yeah.
thing is
Sure.
that she logged in for 5 minutes for the first time ever. And I don't like, unless you're there with them as they sign in, that doesn't happen. Where your friend is right there when you log in. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm already on. Oh, you're already on. Well, let me jump on real quick. And then, yeah, she can start ramping that up. But she logged in literally for that one song, logged out, and then it had that whole follower thing. Whereas
No,
if they
isn't
would
that
have
kind of how
transitioned
viral
it,
videos go?
I think that is kind of like okay, like
Yeah.
for
it
example,
takes some time for it to ramp up. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Where
Yeah,
it's like,
maybe not like overnight, but yeah.
which is what it wasn't even. I think it was overnight actually.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's my only issue with that. But if it happened during that whole montage, I have absolutely no issue if that's how that was done.
Sure.
Mhm. Let's circle back to the music point though. Not that I want to end the conversation, but where music was such a huge part of it and we just kind of scratched the surface. What other thoughts do you all have on the music, since it's basically, you could argue it's more than half of this movie? Cuz it's really what holds it up. Yeah, Bridget,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Yeah.
Well, I re-listened to the soundtrack while I was getting ready for this, and I wrote down like a ton of stuff that I could probably just ramble about for a long time. But and I wrote down like my favorite tracks. I listened to the whole soundtrack, not just the ones with the singing. And I had noticed a lot of cool stuff. I don't know if it's interesting to you guys, but as a musician, who went to school for music, I'm like trained to like hear stuff. I don't know, hear
You're
stuff
tuned in.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tuned in.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and anyone feel free to interject, but I can just go down my list. It's not that long, but I wrote down my favorites and just like some thoughts about them.
Question, Bridget.
Uh-huh.
Did you or did you not just write down every place there was a harp in the entire show?
No, I
I'm
didn't.
just kidding. I'm just
There was a
kidding.
lot
I'm
of
just
good
kidding.
harp parts, though. I actually never mentioned
was
the
there?
harp in my
Good.
list. Yeah, there
Oh,
were,
okay.
though. There
Interesting.
were.
Yeah, please hit us
Uh,
with some stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Get us some
Well,
highlights.
okay. My favorite songs where she sings was A Million Miles Away and Gales of Song. And I don't know if you guys have listened to the singing songs in both the English and the Japanese one, but they did a really good job finding an English singer
Did
to
they?
be similar
yeah.
to the Japanese one. I actually almost thought they were the same person, and I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I'm not like
It was
very
really
good at
good.
knowing
Wow.
what
Because
singers
like
do, but
that
it was really
singer
good.
was very good. Like
Yeah.
I really liked her voice. Really loved her voice.
Yeah, and even the English dub singer was really really good too. And like the translation wasn't like clunky. It didn't really like it translated over well, I think. At least in my opinion. But so those were my favorite songs. And then as for the soundtrack music, I wrote a lot more about cuz like I don't know, I really liked it that it was kind of a cool blend of modern music and old-timey music. And when I say old-timey, I mean like Disney, like it sounded very Disney, like 1950s moments. And I think
Mhm.
they did that really cool. I think they did that intentionally because of, Beauty and the Beast. And then also it mixed with like modern, almost like idol music, like K-pop idol type thing, which was really cool how they brought that together. It like makes you feel like old-timey nostalgia and then also like modern like curiosity, innovation sounding at the same time. So I thought that was really cool.
So, Bridget, I am so glad you brought that up because there is a point when they're doing like the background montage of like her mom and her dad raising her and like teaching her music and stuff. They literally use the tones of do 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 do.
Yeah, I know. I
They
noticed that
literally
too.
do that. They literally do that straight from Beauty and the Beast. I'm like, ah, got
Yeah,
you.
and it's like in every 16 bars of the A Million Miles Away song. At like every 16 bars it does that da 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 da,
Does it
and then
oh
16 bars later it'll
Wow.
go da 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 da. Yeah, it's really cool.
my goodness, that's
You should
That's
listen to that one
insane.
again. Yeah,
That's
it's
super
really cool.
dope.
Because like they like make a hard note, like, oh, Belle, it's French for beauty. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, great, good,
So
great.
for
They- yeah,
those
they,
who
like,
might
pointed
not
it
be as musically inclined, it's A Tale as Old as Time from the
Yeah.
Disney Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is the
Tale as
song
Old
being
as Time.
referenced.
But yeah, back to like the nostalgia and like modern stuff.
Yeah.
Like they did things like incorporating like harpsichord and then also like synth and beats and like almost like EDM or video game music at the same time. And two tracks that are good examples of this that you can go back and listen to are Dragon's Lair, which is when she goes to his castle, and then Scorching the Facade, which I don't remember what's that is from, but those are both good examples of like there's like random like harpsichord bits, and then there's like, a couple beats later it goes all, techno and stuff. It's really cool.
I mean, you guys have got me
Interesting.
sold. I gotta go back and listen to this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
soundtrack.
to go
Yeah,
listen to
you
it.
do. It carries a whole different thing, and it like evokes the scenes from the movies. But anyways, so then the other other ones that I really liked, just a couple more, was the track, the instrumental track Dragon, which was like the theme for the Beast. And this one, I don't know if you guys remember it or went back and listened to it, but it's this like almost solo cello by itself, and it's just like going ham. I would love to see a cellist play it because it sounds really hard. I don't know anything about the cello, but it like goes hard. And then one thing I noticed while listening to the soundtrack was that not only does the dragon have like a theme, but his voice is also always represented with the cello, even if it's not playing his theme. And like in Dragon's Lair 2, it's just really cool because the cello gives like the dark, deep impression of the beast, but then you can also tell that there's like an underlying like yearning and sadness to it if you go back and listen to the Dragon's Lair one too, because like it starts out all like fierce and scary, and then later it gets softer, and it has like I said, that yearning to it, and it is just like so beautiful. It was tugging
in that track. The antithesis to the cello is the violin part. Do you think that the violin is representative of Belle, because they overlay each other almost in a dissonant way, but it works really, really well? I wonder if the violin represents Belle and the cello represents the dragon.
That's a good point. I was listening to try to hear like so I think I know what the Belle theme is. It's the da 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 da. That's her theme. But I was trying to find an instrument that was like regularly introduced when she was there, but I couldn't really pick it out. But maybe it is the violin. I'll have to go back and listen to it.
It might depend on the piece, because if that's her motif, then they can use her motif with different.
Her voice was typically the instrument that was used when she was introduced on screen.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Which I thought was cool. I did track that.
I'm probably thinking too hard about it. And then just a couple more pieces and I'm almost done. So really quick, the track Justin, which was for that Gaston character who was awful. His soundtrack is way amazing. It's way too cool for him. It's a really good soundtrack.
There's a lot of things
it's perfect for Gaston or whatever his face is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Character, but
the original Gaston.
Really,
the original Gaston had some slamming hits. Let me tell you
that's
that right
what
now.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, original Gaston was amazing. This guy was a pathetic excuse for existence. Yeah. We'll get to him in a minute.
Also, Justin is just such like a normal name. It was just so funny to me. He's like,
they should have chose Chad. They should have chose Chad.
Yeah.
Chad the Lion Hand.
And then for the track called Unveil, which is like what plays when they're like gonna do the unveiling, this one was actually really cool and probably my favorite. And I don't know if you guys, I'm gonna be a nerd for a second, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Planet Suite by Gustav Holst.
I definitely am. It's wonderful.
Yes, I've played it.
Okay, you are. So that track, it's almost uncanny how familiar and similar it is to. It starts out like Mercury from the planets, and then it ends like Mars, and like the similarities between, like, it's almost like the exact same music as Mars. It's crazy.
If so, I am even more excited to go back and listen to this because I love both those tracks.
I was trying to figure out, I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? I was like, this track just feels familiar, because I've been I was in band for like over a decade, and we played the planets, and man, I didn't even realize that. It's literally
like almost the exact same thing, and I don't know what the reason is why, but I'm sure they had a reason, because there's no way it was like an accident, you know.
That's amazing. Sonny, what are some of the songs that stood out to you, like, as we've gone through some of these? What comes to your mind?
I mean, A Million Miles Away. Gale's a song is my favorite, of course. Lend Me Your Voice.
What stood out to you in Gale's? Like, what about that makes you your favorite?
I think it was like, maybe there's like a slight stutter or something, like the hesitance of it. I don't know. I kind of felt like it was like drawing into like building courage into the music. I don't know. I honestly feel like that one was pushing my whole soul out.
Oh, it spoke to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. I love it. Well, let's start moving on then. So we talked a lot about the music. What other things did people like or not like from the show? Do we jump into Mr. Lionhand and the Furry Police right now?
Yes.
Well,
Since that came up?
I can talk about the introduction really quick because that
Yeah,
really
for it.
brought down my score.
The U track?
No. Well, that had a part to do with it, but the way they did the introduction was essentially an ad for you.
Okay, yeah.
And then immediately she comes out, and you see the picture of the mother, and whenever they do that, you know they're dead. And
It's
so,
anime. Every parent's dead.
well, yes, but
Parent.
especially if
And
there is a
Disney.
single, yeah, but if there's like a single photo of someone there, and they keep
Yeah.
on looking at it and they're sad, they're dead. It could be a friend that died, it could be a parent that died, it could be a mentor that died, they're dead.
And then she has flashbacks of the mom, so you know for a fact she's dead.
Well, but that's kind of my whole reason why I didn't like it, is because there was the whole ad, and then, oh, break, we're jumping back out, it's reality, flashback, oh, here's the mother, and because you know that she's already going to die, it's just like, okay, how she's going to die. And then she dies in one of the stupidest ways possible, where it's like, oh, hey, there's this massive group of people, you're the only person who did anything, and even then, it's like, okay, so you didn't take an extra life vest, that was the only life vest.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Or it's like, and if I don't go, she's going to die. Why? Is there a flash flood or something?
Well, that's what was implied.
Yeah.
A flash flood is what was implied because when the daughter starts running back to the water has arisen past the level of the island, so it was a flash flood.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yes, I specifically remember seeing that.
And I guess to me, that's kind of the part where it's like, okay,
Have a radio saying flash flood warning or something.
well, yeah, just have something. Because again, to me,
Yeah.
it's a very, very easy point to miss. I missed it. And for that to be kind of a big crux of like that whole thing, I was watching, it was just like, well, that was stupid.
Okay, I have to add something here because it's so connected to this. I'm going to jump all the way to the end of the movie when the old awesome ladies who were great for the whole movie, all of a sudden they're like, oh, there's this abusive man hitting his children. Let's take you to the airport so you can confront him alone. And I'm like, do you not know how her mother died going and doing something sketchy alone? Go with her. Like, don't repeat history. What the frick is wrong with you? Like, I was so in the theater when that moment happened. People in the theater were like, what the heck? Go with her. What are you doing? Like, oh, sorry, I can't go with you to confront this abusive man. I've got to get home and make dinner for the kid.
You
Like,
got
what?
this.
No,
You're in a sensation. They can't touch
my
you.
Gosh.
So I wrote notes as I was watching the movie, and the conversation that she had with her father. And there was a line that she said was like, hey, sorry for me being selfish. And I'm like, no, that is not selfish. That is stupidity
Yeah.
on everybody
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, like the overprotective not boyfriend. What happened to him? Where was he in that? He should have been the one to go with.
There's one other issue that I have with the guardian, whatever he was. Where he made like some point of like, oh, I was watching. Wait a second, you were there? You were there and you didn't do anything?
I know. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, Sony. I know you liked it. I just that part was just it was so dumb. It was so dumb. Almost to me, it was even no, go ahead, Sonny. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just like, oh, I just consider like they're old people. Let them not, it's like a 7-hour drive, train drive. I don't know. Just
what else are they gonna do?
I don't know. They're old. What are they gonna do? Just
what was she supposed to do? She's young
and small, yeah.
And small.
I mean,
power in numbers. Pack philosophy.
I've seen 4-year-olds take train rides to school in Japan.
Yes, to encounter 30-year-old bullies. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But they go to like an hour drive on the train by themselves.
Abusive anger management issue people. Okay, speaking of stupid things.
Not just that, they watched it.
They watched him abuse. Okay, what adult last thing I'll say about this. What adult watches another adult abuse a child and is like, oh, I'm so angry. I'm gonna drive you to the train station. Go get him, 14-year-old girl. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
part really bothered me.
I called the police. They said there's nothing they could do, so I'm just gonna stay home. Anyway, okay. Let's put that one to rest and transition into, in my opinion, the second most stupid part of the movie, Mr. Lionhand and the furry police.
The knockoff
Like-
Justice League.
I know.
We just opted them out.
Okay,
Yeah.
there was a couple issues with characters in that world, because like
Yeah.
Belle, gorgeous, the dragon, ferocious, the furry police had their own shtick, and everybody else is like a squid or like a mouse, a computer mouse or something stupid.
Hand character?
Yeah.
Ugly.
What I couldn't get
oh,
over was that they said they were like, oh yeah, the U scans you and makes your avatar a representation of yourself, and there's someone who's like a floating foot with a face.
Yes.
Wouldn't
I think
you
it was
feel
two
bad?
wasn't there?
They dropped their phone during the scan, and it
what?
only scanned their foot.
Yeah,
No,
there
I
were some
saw-
ugly characters.
Oh.
During like one of the final concerts, I saw a billboard, and the billboard was literally the the CCP,
What's that?
the China's People's Republic.
Oh.
It was like I saw
There
that, I'm
it
like,
is.
China? Okay.
Hey, China.
It's actually the
What are you
PRC,
Yeah.
the People's Republic of China. It's PRC, right?
It's in different languages, and the one that I saw was
Oh.
for that
Sure.
particular language.
But yeah, like what? Who would keep going to a system that turns them into like a two-faced mouse or whatever happened to
Yeah.
those characters in there? And then like, oh yeah, Belle. Yeah, you know what? We're fine with her because she's kind of plain looking, but she sings real nice. I like her message. No, she's a full-fledged human in this world and gorgeous compared to the rest of you lot.
Compared to
they
all
were
of you.
Ugly.
On Mr. Lionhand,
Yeah,
first of all,
alright.
okay,
Yeah.
a plethora of problems I had with him. First of
Yeah.
all, his motivation didn't really make sense. He has sponsors. Okay, sure, whatever. But I need to be the justice person. Okay, what? Okay, whatever.
It's like he was like the hall monitor of a 6th grade class.
Yeah, yep.
Exactly. Maybe he was 12. Maybe that's the twist. Um,
Why did they make
freaking-
him a foot then?
Ha!
He had muscles. What the heck?
so okay, so his motivation, his character doesn't even need to exist. If you're gonna have an antagonist, first of all, the main antagonist of the show was the abusive father and the girl's struggle, the inner struggle within herself to cope with her mom's death. Those were the antagonists. So his existence was futile. He didn't even need to be there. He was superfluous in every sense of the word, except for they're like, you know what? We need someone chasing the beast. Someone chasing the beast. Oh, wait. Oh, you know, it'd be funny. What if we had this like sponsor guy go after him? Yeah. No, it was bad. It was really, really, really bad.
One other thing that really bothered me is that he had a line in there where he was interrogating Belle,
Oh, yeah.
and he was like, "I have the same power as the creators," and I was like, "And they're okay with this?" Because if they weren't, they just go and be like, "Oh, guess what? That little gauntlet thing you have deleted. You can't do that anymore."
You shouldn't be able to do that.
I mean, the
Yeah.
creators don't care, apparently. They don't intervene.
Well, but
Yeah.
at that
Yeah,
point, there's these
hey.
things called moderators or admins, and that would actually give
What?
him a motivation to actually chase after the beast. So it's like, hey, he's causing issues. And as
Yeah.
a moderator, I need to go and like do
Yes.
these things. And so, yeah, I have the power of the creators. Well, duh, I'm a moderator. It was given to me by the creators to fulfill this purpose.
Yeah. Don't make him the idiotic,
Like-
nonsensical symbol of justice that makes no
No.
sense.
It would have been something to have like they had a name for the moderators too, or like the creators, right? They're like the not
Voices
the
or something?
singers or
Voice-
voices, something.
Yeah.
If they had showed up at the end, and be like, "Oh, hey, stop that," and like just did like divine ray of blasting that character from existence, like, "Hey, yeah, let's all stand behind and f that guy. I hate that guy. He's stupid."
Yeah.
None of that. They brought him up. I was actually interested to see what the voices would be like represented in this world, and they never came up at all.
Never came up.
Yeah,
Nope.
but they kept being referenced to by this
A
other
lot.
character that didn't need to be there.
No.
Well,
And
and that-
then
that's-
like the other members of his group, and the one's like a leopard lady, like straight out of like DC comic or something. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember the whole lineup. I really don't want to look them up, but I will for you guys, for you the audience.
No, I do remember. As soon as they all appeared, I'm like, oh, it's the knockoff Justice League. And they
You
even did
said
the
that to
line
me. Yeah.
of like,
That was bad Space Jam.
You know, that part for me when they all came on screen, like, okay, there were some cheesy moments in this show that I could ride through, and the music and everything was so good. I was like, okay, it's not that bad. But when they showed up on screen, I physically cringed. I was like, oh, this is too bad for me to ignore. This is way too cheesy. And every time they showed up, I was like, please
know-
no, end my suffering, get them away.
Honestly, I would even apply that to every other side character in VR Land.
Yes.
Like there was some like I
Fair.
think the one character I actually kind of liked was the other like rival or self-made rival human looking model
oh,
character
the goth
Oh,
with the
one.
blue, yeah, with
Yeah,
the
she's cool.
blue makeup.
Mm.
She had
Peggy Sue,
some
yeah.
personality and a normal looking personage. Everybody
Yeah.
else, they were animated weird. They were weird monsters for no reason, or they were the furry police. And like I don't want to listen with any of these guys.
Yeah.
To be fair, we have nothing categorically against furries. These were just really bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't furries, they would still be bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They could have been anything. They could have been,
Could've been
ooh, it would have been more
Power
interesting
Rangers
if they were
knockoff.
like, yeah, they were Power Rangers, or they were like Crayola crayons. They were different colors. That would have been fun, right?
No,
Right?
no,
Right?
but then we have to have the Marines chasing him.
The Marines.
Well,
Oh,
so
crayon eaters. Titans for our
Yes.
Destiny 2
yeah, and then
players.
D2 Titans.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's keep going down our list. We're getting pretty far in here. Let's do some
So-
rapid fire. Like this, didn't like this, didn't like this. Let's start with Sony. Hit us with some things you liked or didn't like.
Like the music, like the art. Didn't like the CGI. Didn't like the Justice League. Let's see. Didn't like the Ugu cry, but I mean, anime does that.
Oh yeah.
The whole abandoning the whole girl thing, watching abusive. Really like how fast the emotional story for the mom was. That was really fast. Like I feel like that was like one of the fastest anime like story of someone's death right away. And like I don't know. I really like Canoe Boy. Really loved him.
Yes!
I
Yes!
love
Canoe
that.
Boy!
Best character.
The scene, the awkward scene with
Yes,
him encountering his
yes.
crush. One of the best
Oh.
scenes in all anime movie done.
It's
my
easily,
goodness.
horrible.
I went back and watched that 3 times just to soak it
Oh.
in. Just to
Oh, so
it's
good.
so good.
Thank you for reminding us of Canoe Boy.
However, one
So
thing I
good.
do have to say, it felt like it was a bit of a throwaway scene. But if there is a throwaway, but if there is a throwaway scene like that, that is easily the best scene in the entire movie.
It was necessary for my
Yes.
enjoyment.
Yes.
Yes.
It was not a
necessary.
throwaway scene.
I don't think anybody here would want that removed. It was my favorite scene by far.
It was so good.
The whole theater was cracking up. It was wonderful. Well, any other quick bits, Sony? Any quick didn't like?
I can't think of anything right now, but yeah, that's pretty much the big expansive bit right now.
All right, Skyler, hit us with your best shot.
Oh boy, when she was trying to find the mansion, and it's like, oh, follow me this way, and the clouds part, and in my mind, I had the Dora the Explorer voice. It's like, can you see the castle? I was like, what do you mean you can't find it?
Soy Castle.
Mhm.
Ándale, ¿dónde estás? Muy bien, mi amiga.
Can you tell me where the castle is?
That's funny. Anything else? Rapid fire.
Yeah, favorite. I liked how they had the 3D for the U, and they did 2D for the real. But the only problem that I have is they didn't stick with it. There were several times where they used 2D animation in U, and it was just like, dang it.
Like what scenes? I don't remember.
It was actually towards the end. There was a couple of times, like during concerts or whatever, where they had everybody as 2D instead of 3D.
Oh, see, I thought that was kind of intentional. I thought that was kind of like the merging of the worlds, people showing their real personalities, her overcoming her fear. I thought it was intentional, but
It
Well,
looked good.
I don't know. Maybe it was.
even her during the final concert, she was still CG.
Yeah.
They took the 2D character and then did the 3D model for her in You.
Mm.
And then Canoe Boy, he had one 3D scene, but that makes sense because that's just a technological thing. So I won't dock them on that one little thing. But yeah, there was a couple of times in You where they went 2D, and I was like, ah, darn.
Mm. Anything else?
Uh, let's see here. She's just another passive character, and that's a big dock for me.
The main girl.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what
Yeah.
really did she
I
do
mean-
of her own volition? Where it's like, I want to do this, and she did it. It was always something happened, and she's reacting to it. Someone else
Mhm.
tells her to go do something, she does it.
I mean,
Yeah.
her looking for the beast was her own volition. Her
That was
deciding
her
to.
friend. That was her friend.
I was
I
going
thought
to say
they
the
both
same
kind
thing,
of
Brett, but
decided.
there was a lot of pressure
Mm.
from the friend on that one.
True.
Mhm.
But to me, that was kind of the point. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying to me, it was kind of point of the show where it's like her overcoming her fear of doing things on her own, and that's why the last scene where she gets on the train is kind of powerful because she like finally made a decision
And
herself.
also, all the songs she sings, that those are her volition choice moments. That's when she actually does her own things.
Yeah.
So, but
But
I see where you're coming from. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
90% of the movie, she's a passive character. I see.
Yeah.
yeah, and for a main character, come on. If you have side characters who are doing more, like the Guardian guy, I liked him way more because it's like the few times that he was on screen, he was doing stuff. Things were moving.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Okay.
best
That's fair.
friend. The best friend was probably my favorite character. Like her like chaotic
Mhm.
hacker friend. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
strive to be that level of extreme support for my friends. Like I want to be the chaotic supportive friend, you know? I thought that
That
was
was fun.
wholesome.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. Where it's like she was a
Yeah.
great character, but
She
she
was
was a
doing
side character,
everything.
and she was doing everything. Like the whole Beast thing. Again,
Yeah.
it was she was just like, "Who are you?" And then it was her friend that's like, "We got to figure out who he
Sure.
is. We
Okay. Yeah.
got to
That's
do
fair.
this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
And
Her
even
friend did the
then,
most.
fair.
but again, where it's like, okay, yeah, the one time that she does do something on her own is the one time she really shouldn't be doing something on her own.
True. True.
It's kind of contradictory, and even there
Yeah.
was like the intentional flashback to how the mother died. It was just like, really,
Mhm.
you're role modeling that? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine,
Fair.
okay.
But she
Um,
didn't die. That's the twist. This time she broke the cycle, Skyler. Her great grandma, her grandma, and her mom all died tragic deaths doing things alone. She broke the cycle.
well, hey, there you go. If they would have shown that, then hey, that would have been something to celebrate, while at the same time calling them out for being stupid.
Braydon, rapid fire.
Yeah, so animation reminded me of like the Avatar, the CGI look reminded me of modern VTuber rigs. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't like CGI as heavily as they did it in this show.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where they had some of their most gorgeous moments of showing off how they're actually using the technology, which I appreciate. I'm just not a fan of that type of visual.
Fair.
And then also the 2D animation was spectacular. All the characters in the general, pretty meh. I wasn't really sold on the strong intentions of or on the show, and the show seemed to be trying to make some kind of statement, like artistic statement about comments and internet popularity, and it didn't land for me. It just didn't. The beast or the dragon character, like the dragon itself, when he was on screen, I didn't, I couldn't, he was just the beast. He was literally just referencing the beast from the Disney movie and not an actual character until in reality he became the kids, and that was actually impactful for me. But for a lot of the time, he's just like this bad A dragon thing that kills everybody that comes in his path, which great anime, but not a character I actually ever would connect with.
Mhm.
And yeah, music was great. I just had a lot of misses. This is a show of misses for me. Like they set up something, they missed. They wanted it to pull up a thing, they missed. And they had
Mhm.
incredible, I would say, pacing, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and incredible
Mhm.
visuals. That was it, and that's not enough for me to recommend the show to anybody.
Mm. What if they were a music major?
Who is a major major?
I'm saying, what if the person asked you if they should watch it if they were a music major?
No, go listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Go watch the show.
Okay, fair. Okay, Bridget, rapid fire.
Okay.
If you have anything.
Yeah. I'll do my. Okay, so something I disliked was one other like plot hole type thing. I guess not really, but the whole like runaround situation where they were like trying to figure out where the little boys lived, and then like the best friend literally hacked into their webcam and she couldn't like figure out their IP address. Like they did this whole thing where they're like, "Oh, I remember the building that they saw," and then she like that part just bothered me. That the first thing I thought of was, why don't you just find out where they are? You hacked their webcam. Why can't you just find where they are? So
I had 2 notes as I was watching it live on what you said. And the whole thing about that girl, she's also like a big physics buff, which means math and stuff. And so if you have those 2 buildings, number 1, what camera are they using to restore blown out pixels and zoom like
I
that?
know.
Yeah.
I know.
And then 2, come on, math girl, you dropped your chance to triangulate from the building position where they were.
That was
yeah,
no.
or
That's
just use their IP address. Like find, I don't know, find where they are. I don't know.
that's future technology, Skyler. It's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Math?
It's the future.
Yeah, it's math.
No. The restoring the picture.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was one thing that I didn't like near the ending where I was like, what? Hello? Like the kind of the same thing as letting her confront the abusive man alone. I was like, hello? Like no one is okay. And then one other thing I didn't like was sadly like the iconic like Beauty and the Beast scene fell flat for me. It just felt really forced. Like I get that what they were trying to do, but it just didn't feel like it fit and it was weird. Like there wasn't a romance between them, so why were they doing like the whole song and dance? Like that part, it was a little cringe for me. Not as cringe as the Justice League, but yeah, it was pretty cringe. But those are 2 things I didn't like. 2 things I liked. I would say my 2 most impactful scenes was when it was revealed that the person who grabbed her from jumping into the river as a child was Shinobu, the boy. It may have been obvious in the beginning to some people,
weird.
but it was
Oh,
not
she's
to
back.
me.
Bridget, you're back.
You gotta redo that. We lost you for a minute. You gotta redo what you just said.
Oh, from where?
What the last thing you said? It's not for me. What's not for you?
The so one of my most impactful scenes was when it was revealed that the person who grabbed her from jumping into the river when she was a kid was Shinobu, the boy. It like that may have been obvious in the beginning for some people, but it was not obvious to me. And so when it was revealed, I was like, "Oh, it makes sense." And like I got emotional at that part because it like they like showed that flashback again, but then included that it was him who grabbed her. So it like came full circle to me and it was really impactful. And then also when the older brother is shielding the younger brother from the dad, like that part like really made me emotional too. So yeah, like kind of like how Braydn said, a lot of it fell flat, but it did have a lot of really like impactful parts, especially with the music, obviously. But those 2 scenes in particular hit me in my emotions, you know. So that's my 2
All right.
things.
All right, I'll do some rapid fire here. I'll try to stray from things we've already talked about. For me, the movie was highly predictable. The kid grabbing the hand, knew who that was. Mom dying, I figured, figure stuff out down the road. When the girl, the very first scene where the girl is feeding the dog that has the gimpy leg, I was like, okay, she's gonna find someone to nurture in the movie. And obviously, Beauty and the Beast, I knew that was gonna happen, but it was just really predictable. Like nothing surprised me the entire time watching it. And I'm not saying that a movie based on another movie should surprise me. The only thing that surprised me was how cheesy some of the things were that made me actually cringe, like the things we've talked about. And as Bridget mentioned, the Beauty and the Beast scene, the dance scene, when he had shoes, I lost it. I was like, no. Because he had these big monster feet, and then all of a sudden he's wearing these shoes. I was like, oh no.
Not even Beast and Beauty and the Beast had shoes on.
No,
so
because it's
they really
weird
went for
and bad. It's bad. And then they fly in the sky and they're rotating and his shoes are flying around. And I'm like, oh, man, I couldn't watch that scene. I literally covered my eyes. I was like, tell me when it's over. So there were a lot of cheesy moments of it for me.
Yep.
So it didn't like. I liked the switch in animation styles. I thought the moment the first 2D scene came on, I was like, okay, this is going to be a treat. Attention to detail, everything was gorgeous. And I have to say, the voice actress for the main character was my favorite voice actress of any female anime character I have ever seen. She
Really good.
crushed
Yeah,
it.
it was good.
Everything about her performance for me was a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Like even the fact that she had a lower voice than most female anime
Yeah,
protagonists,
I love
it
that.
made it so much more grounded and relatable and like genuine for me. It was so she killed it. She alone raises my score for the whole show.
I did want to note on her because we talked about this last time, the last episode, about characters having ranges of voices, and anime characters are usually just higher in the screaming volume. She had the full spread. She had
Oh, yeah.
all ups, all the downs. I loved it.
Everything super dynamic. Yeah, so those are just some rapid fire things like didn't like, and now that we've all concluded that, let's quickly just go back over as a recap. Personal enjoyment rankings. Everyone going to circle. I'll go first. My enjoyment 7.5. Sony,
8.5.
Skyler,
6.5.
Bridget,
7.
Braydon.
4 out of 10.
4. Okay, now it's time to jump into our technical discussion. So our technical rubric of how we are judging the show can be found on our social media, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the places. We rank it in 4 different categories: art, story, characters, and delivery. And we'll explain each category as we go. Starting with art. Art includes music, animation, art style, and opening and outros, which don't happen here. Our 1 score is terrible, frequently bland, poorly done, or repetitive. 5 is exceptional, delivering powerful moments always in an excellent fashion. What is everyone thinking? Let's just hold up our hands for what we think in terms of art for this show on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
I can't.
All right, so we have 4 5s and a 2.5.
2.5. 2.5.
Let's jump in. First off, I and Skylar, I'm just gonna guess here, since your specialty is kind of in the animation area, do we just all want to collectively skip music and just all say that the music was pretty much a 5?
Yeah, the music was fantastic, and
is
if it
fantastic.
wasn't for the art, yeah.
Okay, so let's just say that part is a 5.
Yes.
Skylar, touch on your thoughts on the art style and animation. What do you got?
So the art style was Ghibli. Like, it
Yes,
really
correct.
hit me when they were, like, in the high school and they were playing. I was like, this is Studio Ghibli. Like, they are going for a Studio Ghibli style of animation.
Mhm.
However, it fell flat in certain areas, in just certain movements that they did. There was just because Studio Ghibli, like you pause any frame in a Ghibli movie, it's gorgeous. Everything is detailed, everything is beautiful. It wasn't quite like that with Belle. There were some parts where it just wasn't like that. Even in the 3D space, there were several times where I was watching and just the 3D motion felt janky. It felt off. And what probably happened is that they were trying to. So whenever you animate in 2D and in 3D, when you animate in 2D, whenever you do the in-betweens, the artists are kind of able to make up any difference between the 2 frames to make it look fluid and smooth and beautiful. You can't necessarily do the same thing with 3D, because in 3D you have your model and you can deform it, but you're mostly just animating using the armature or the bones of that character. And so what they probably tried to do is they probably did their animation at, a standard rate, and then they did 3D animation at the same rate. But the thing is that it's kind of the same thing that I saw with the Tuesday. What's the name of the anime that we're doing for Anime Club? The Tuesday?
Carol and Tuesday.
Carol and Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's the same problem there, where they had 2D and 3D elements, but they were not animated at the same frame rate, and there was just that slight disconnect.
Yeah, like where the guitar floats around in her hand a little bit.
Exactly. It's because
Yeah.
you have 2 different frame rates essentially going on there. The perfect example of how to do that correctly is Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah.
And there, like the way that they do the animation there is very intentional.
Good.
It makes
Cool.
sense. And oh, the animation is beautiful. But in Belle, there were just a few times where the characters' motions were just a little janky, that both 2D and 3D. There
I'll
were a few frames, well, not a few frames, but there were a few sequences where it just didn't look good. But then there were other frames where they were absolutely gorgeous.
mm, I'll interject one of my thoughts, which is that I too noticed some jank in the 3D animation. But for me, it was really easy to overlook because I was thinking of it like a video game. And what video game doesn't have jank? Like every video game is gonna have some kind of weird stuff. Even the most polished game out there. So, like for me, I guess I was more willing to overlook it because I was like, oh, it's a video game. If there's some jankiness, it's a video game.
For me,
See,
I guess, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna toss. I was willing to overlook the jankiness because I think that's just how CGI animation is, and I don't like it. So I'm willing to overlook it because I don't like the animation style. But
Fair.
they offered a lot of very cool and powerful scenes, like over and over and over again. And to where like the low light moments of scenes and characters. Like I know we've said about how much I don't like the design of the characters and how all the humans were weird squiggly things, but they were nice looking at least. I liked those. So
That actually brings me up a question, Skyler. What would you say, like percentage wise, like what percentage of the time would you say that the animation was a miss for you?
Ooh, it really depends because certain scenes, there was enough going on that I wasn't focused on the animation itself. But when there wasn't that much going on, it allowed me to essentially look at more of the background, more of what was going on, look at more of the character motions themselves. And even during certain action scenes, like you mentioned, like with the whole dancing thing,
Oh, right. Yeah.
exactly that.
They looked
And
really
so
robotic.
and that's just it, and that's all motion, and that's the differences between animating in 2D and 3D. And
Right.
if you have the same art director essentially trying to do both 2D and 3D, that's why it fell flat.
Mm,
Because there's two very different techniques that you have to essentially get into the mindset of, and if there's one person who's trying to coordinate the both of them, it's easy to miss these because switching from one to the other is very hard. I focus on the 3D aspect, but I know enough about 2D that I can see things and know where they can be better.
mhm. What
Um,
are what are other people's thoughts on the animation? Did anyone else think that technically they missed on any of the animation points?
I thought some things looked weird, but like it didn't detract that much for me. Because I was like kind of how Skylar said, I was focused on other stuff, so I
Mm,
didn't like I could acknowledge that there were bad parts, but it didn't like affect my enjoyment that much.
mhm,
well, and I guess for
it,
me, it was just a couple of details as well. Because I think I mentioned
mhm,
a train sequence where this is in the very beginning, where she's in a train. And
mhm,
essentially, you have this light pattern that they're animating on top of her hair, and it
mhm.
has all the light shining through the leaves, and it's very, very detailed.
I
But the
love
thing
that
that
scene.
caught my attention and made it strange was that there was a hard line right along her head where the shadow just stopped.
Hmm.
And the thing is that's not how shading works. When you shade a sphere, it tapers. Now, cell shading, okay, whatever. But the thing is that where this number one, this is a movie, and when it's a movie, my standards for artwork and animation is much higher.
Mm, mm.
okay, because
And
I was gonna
so,
ask about that because we
yeah,
gave a collective 3.5 to Haikyuu last week, which had nowhere near in 2D or anything the
Yeah.
the uh the animation intensity or like beauty intensity that this shows has. But you're putting this below Haikyuu.
yes, because it is a movie. And again, movies, the way
Mm,
that they have their budgets, the way they spend their budgets is essentially on all of the animation and the visuals. Because the way to look at it is that a show has less budget than a movie, but a movie has less screen time than a show.
okay.
Well, let's kind of do this then because we're trying to come to a consensus, and I would actually say that I agree that there were enough animation moments that were technically maybe not great that maybe this movie doesn't reach into 5 land, but I also hear what Braydn and Bridget are saying where, okay, sure, there are some misses, but are they really egregious enough to hold back as an entire category, art, which includes music and animation? Do we really think it's enough for those few misses to keep it back all the way, to a low score? I'm thinking that technically this show accomplished a really high art score still. Like I'm kind of thinking it's in the 4.5 realm of
Yeah, it
art.
was more ambitious. It was definitely ambitious.
I didn't really notice too much of the bad animation part. The only thing I really didn't care for is the Team Justice and the little AIs. That's the only that threw me off. Besides that, I just didn't notice it.
The AIs are a problem I have in the story technical side.
Okay. Well, what are we thinking? What's everyone kind of thinking then after we've had this discussion technical? I'm hovering around the 4.5 land, and I'm willing to kind of go down a little bit for some of the animation stuff, but I don't think it was such a high enough percentage that it would really bring it down technically.
Well, I guess what I was going
4.5.
for with the train thing is that the fix for that is easy. So the way that you would animate that is essentially you have a selection going, and that's what they're animating over.
Mhm.
And all you would have to do is add a feather on that edge around the sphere so that it's not a hard line, but it quickly fades out.
Sure.
And
But I
it's
would
just it's
still
things like that where there were so many places that if they just put a little bit of extra time into it, it would have amplified it a lot. And they didn't.
I just don't know if those teeny tiny things are big enough for me though to really justify knocking it down a whole point. You know what I mean? Because we're looking at the composition of a whole, and at the end of the day, a movie is beholden to time and budgetary restraints. Nothing's going to be perfect ever. So like
Any
if
piece of art.
so if they decide to make 99% of that scene gorgeous and they're like, you know what? We missed that on that last pass. Well, we're 2
Fair
days
enough.
over for this scene. We got to ship it. I think that accomplishing a 99% gorgeous scene is totally acceptable, if not excelling. Like, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
What?
I'm sorry, Skyler. You're able to convince me on a lot of things when it comes to technical. I'm missing on this one with this
Well,
conversation.
here's another example. Like when with the whole actual canoe boy, when they're in the train station doing that whole thing,
Yeah.
it is the exact same camera position, which means that it is the exact same drawing.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of drift going on in there, and drift is essentially where the feet isn't completely anchored, and it's not interacting with the ground all the way.
Okay.
So that's another example of something that I noticed where it's just like, interesting.
I will give those small moments of things overlooked, but I'm still thinking technically I don't think that's enough to
I
really
really
hold
can't
it
give this
back.
below a 4, Skyler. I really
Yeah,
can't.
I don't think
I'm good
this
with
movie deserves
4.5.
below a 4 for art cuz
You're
music
it's
is
like
included. Music is included in art, and to me,
Yeah.
if the animation was bad, like if it was bad animation and the music was as incredible as it is, to me it would still be up there with like a 3 or a 4. But where the music was incredible and the animation was great, like I don't think it deserves anything less than a 4. Even if there were problems with the animation, I don't think it was enough to hold it back. Sony,
Yeah.
Bridget, what are your thoughts?
I think same.
Um,
I think that the amount of like little things, even though they do add up over time, I think the amount of little things would dock it a 0.5 in my opinion. So I think 4.5 is a good rating in my opinion.
I feel like little things like that is too nitpicky for me, so I still kept that as a 5. Things I don't even like notice.
Well, I guess to put it in context, of all the movies that I've seen, anime movies, this is the first one where I've had consistent things jump out. It's like, oh, that was weird. Oh, that was weird about animation and visuals. This has
And
been
I
the only movie that I've had that happen with.
and I did have that as well with the 3D moments specifically. Like I did notice a lot of those. So it's Braden, would you think if we landed, and Skyler, would you think if we landed on a 4.5 collectively for art that would be acceptable?
it, it- it's I mean, absolutely. I'm fine with it. We're in a point there we can't come to an agreement here on this score. That's where we're at. This is a new one for us. Usually we're able to like budge or wiggle, but we're so polarized on this subject. I
don't
really do
think
wiggle, but Skylar's
it is
Skylar's
not
side
a
is more.
4.5 for me. It is not a 4.5 for me at all.
Yeah.
I would give it
Would-
a 4, given the consensus. Like I would be fine if the group arrived at a 4, but not a 4.5. No.
Would we all feel good arriving at a 4? So a 4 for us is that the composition often delivers powerful moments in an excellent fashion. Exceptional is the composition always delivers powerful moments in an excellent fashion.
So I was clicking off the screen. What's the question?
So the
Are
question
we
is,
often or always?
yeah, often or always. So
I
for
could
the
say always
composition,
or often. I could say often.
yeah,
Again, I don't like the animation style, just in general. CGI is not my bite, so
sure.
yeah.
So it sounds like we're landing at a 4. Bridget, Sonny?
I'm fine with
That's
it if it keeps it moving.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just go with it. I
Yeah.
mean, the lowest I'll go is probably 4.5, but let's go for 4.
All right. Let's go to the next one. Story. Story includes plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, and tropes.
Oh god.
This is another one where I'd probably give it like a 2.5 or a 3.
Yeah.
Let's
Same.
real quick read through the rubric. 1,
Yeah.
it was frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. Bad, it was sometimes those things. 3, meh for all categories is on par with what you would expect from a decent show. It doesn't stand out for being exceptionally good or bad. And I don't think for story we even need to go into good or great, because I think we're all feeling that story-wise, this movie kind
Hey
of
Google.
fell
I'm wrong.
short a little bit.
Hi, Skyler. Welcome home. One or more devices aren't available. You might want to try setting them up again.
So, I'm thinking, someone threw out 2.5. I'm more at 2.
2.5 was being a
Okay.
little generous.
I want to shout out the one thing I want to say in contrary to the rest of the bad stuff, and that's like in the story's realm.
Yeah.
The pacing of this anime was on point. It was admirable, in my opinion. Like they had the marks of when they should be making transitions, when they need to be bringing a new story beat in, when a song needed to happen, when characters need to be saying things. They hit the mark. The content behind it just didn't like. They just didn't do it. I like the motion of the show. I just didn't like what was in it.
The one
I
counter
accept it.
I would have is that it was a 2-hour movie. Did it need to
Yeah.
be 2 hours?
Yeah.
I actually think yeah. I actually think yes. I think too, because if I'm thinking about what could have been taken out story-wise,
Yeah.
the only thing I can think of is the furry Justice Squad,
Mm-hmm.
and they made up a total of like maybe 7 minutes of screen time. It was horrible screen time, but it was only like 7 minutes of screen time. So I can't really think of anything that could have been taken out and had the story progress the same way. Like,
We've-
to me, the pacing was great as well. I agree with Braydn.
And then the world building. What was going
No.
on at all in that world? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
No.
Why were some human characters these weird little abstract
Mhm.
goonballs, and some were like fully fledged, beautiful
Yeah.
characters?
And
The
rules and
story, reason.
systems, like the sponsor thing made no sense. Like, why in the world did this power? Who are the voices? Like, yeah, like the rules and systems. Like, I'm thinking a 2 pretty well describes this movie, which is it was sometimes nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, disappointing.
Yeah, I'm comfortable giving it a 2.
Yeah. Does anyone think anything else for the story part of it? Does anyone think that it was often consistent, comprehensible, consumable, on point, unique, well paced?
I would say
That's
that
good.
it maybe gets a point for being unique at least. Like it definitely takes a because like you expect it to
Yes.
be like the Beauty and the Beast, but then it ends up, doing something completely different. So that I'll give it, I'll give an acknowledgement for being unique, even if it was, confusing with some stuff and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if this is a 1.5, like from my projection,
Hmm.
because it reaches towards.
It really does.
Yeah.
It was frequently nonsensical, confusing,
It does have the
boring.
pacing lean, I'll give. It does have some
Yes.
earnest originality. I completely agree with Bridget. So I
Yeah.
can't really give it a 1.
I give it a 2.
I did in my notes comment a few times actually on the whole architecture of the U and how weird and interesting was the word that I used it was.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, actually, I liked some of the architecture of the U because I hadn't really. Um, the only thing I can think of going back in my mind that has that same kind of architecture, you had Tron with the layers, but even then, not quite. There was this old show called Code Lyoko that I kind of remembered that kind of gave me some flashbacks. But anyway, Sony, what are you thinking for story? We're all thinking around a 2. What are you thinking?
Oh, I honestly thought it was a 3. I mean, it feels like another Summer Wars for me, which is why I like it. Um, I mean, the avatars, it's like Summer Wars. Everyone had create their own avatars, not so much like the AI digital one. Like I feel like for Belle, she could accept that design, or she could have made her own. Probably, I don't think it's like forced on anyone. So like how that old lady had like a baby or anything like that. So I got like, oh, avatars. They can do whatever they want, but why be a human? But I guess Belle chose to be him and Peggy Sue. So I kind of like that too.
All right. So we've heard a 1.5, we've heard a 3. If we all landed in the middle at 2, would we all feel good about that? Sony, would you feel good if we landed at 2?
I'm okay with a 2.
I'm okay with 2.
Yeah.
Yep,
All
2.
right. 2 it is for story. All right. Now we're on to characters. Characters includes character design, development, motivation, action and inaction, why they chose to do and not do certain things, relationships, and personality. 1, terrible, the characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying. 5, the characters are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable. This one is a polarizing one for me
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How so?
because some characters I think were really good. The
Yes.
main character to me was really good most of the time. Canoe Boy for me was actually a great character. He was
Really
relatable.
good
He was
character.
static in a good
Oh,
way, but had moments where he evolved with like his crush. He was consistent and reasonable. Even the girl who he had a crush on, to me, was a really good
oh,
character.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
The
just
old
need to take
ladies,
him.
the old ladies were terrible. They let a young girl go to a freaking abusive man. Like so, and then like the guardian character, I don't think he was a great character. I really don't. He was there to fulfill this emotional need for the story, but
Yeah.
I didn't think he was a good character. So I'm like way swinging around here. And okay, hot take, I didn't like the character of the Beast. I didn't like the Beast character. I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
I didn't.
I,
I really relate to him on a personal level, but I don't think he was a good character because sometimes his action inaction just kind of.
I agree in that when it was the dragon, the beast in VR mode, yeah, I just couldn't. I just didn't. There was not enough to that character to be anything. However, as soon as we see the video clear at the end of the two brothers defending against their dad, I'm like, oh, oh, okay,
Yeah.
those brothers. Like, and then when
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
she
yeah,
reaches out
sure.
and says, "Oh, I will help you. I promise I'll help," and he's like, "Help, help, help." All I hear is help, 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 and nobody
Yeah,
help anybody. That
Yeah.
was such a
that was
land
good.
moment out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh
was good.
boy,
It was good. It was good.
yes.
So
So
that's why I'm polarizing. Like some characters are really good, some are really not good. Mr. Lionhand and the Fuzzies, like, oh,
We would
not
consider
good
him a
characters.
character, right?
Awful characters. So I
I'd
Yeah.
give this one another 1.5 actually, or a 2, 1.52.
okay.
Because
Okay.
and another thing to me as well is that the dynamic characters should be the ones that you spend the most time with because that explains why they're that dynamic. It felt like to me, the secondary characters were the ones who were dynamic and were changing and was doing everything, while the main character really wasn't. And so it felt to me like those were flipped, that the characters who should have been more dynamic were not, and the characters who should have been more static were not. And I liked the background characters way more than the main character.
Mhm.
Mm. You know, I
I
think the go ahead, Braydon. Go ahead.
I was gonna toss more towards a 3 on my end.
Yeah.
I was
For
going for
the
3.
for the call that, like, while I didn't like the main character was static, like, they were like, I got why they were doing things. Again, the pacing of the story kind of carried the main character through the whole thing.
I
Mhm.
did.
And
Mhm.
she held at least that tempo. She wasn't a terrible character.
She wasn't lagging, which some characters do.
Some features do lag in MMOs like this. Yes, of course.
Okay,
Nerd.
so looking at our rubric, the reason I would actually move toward a 2.5 rather than a 3 is because 2.2 says the characters are sometimes unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, and annoying. And there were enough characters to me that were that way compared to the number of characters that were often understandable, consistent, and reasonable, that I'm edging it towards that. I could honestly go either way, 2.5 or 3, but that's what that when I read the rubric, that's kind of the feeling I'm getting is if I had a scale and I stacked up the characters that fit the 2 and the characters that fit the 3 when I stacked them up, the scale would tip toward the 2.
Okay.
Like that's what I'm thinking. And Braydon, I think you mentioned that same thing where you were like, how about all the background characters in the U? And I was like, yes. Like all of the ones they tried to make seem like people in, I don't know. I'm stacked. If I put them on a scale, it's tipping toward 2. So I'd be 2.5 is where I'm thinking. What does everyone think after that statement? Anyone agree, disagree?
I'd be good with a 2.5 or a 3. So to me, they're the same.
Braydon, Sony?
I don't know. I feel like the amount of time where like they out of like what they were supposed to do and stuff like that. I mean, it feels like it wasn't too often to me. So I think like a 3 was like I enjoyed the characters and what they did for the most part. So like the main character, Canoe Boy, Ruka. I don't I don't care for the bodyguard friend one.
Yeah.
Or the dragon. But like you got the little boy who's like Station Bio, mentally ill. That's the word for
Mhm.
Japanese.
Mhm.
But like you got like all these characters. I just feel great about them. So it's like mixed emotions, like half and half. But then yeah, you got the school teachers.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
if we landed on 2.5, would anyone feel bad about that?
A little bit, but not
A
enough
little,
for me to change it. 3 I think is my solid hit, but 2.5
yeah.
is not too far off that
Three?
path.
If we
I'm
landed
for
on
3.
if we landed on a 3, if we landed on a 3, Skylar, you and me are the ones thinking about holding it back a little bit, but I'm good either way, 2.5 or 3. 3 is on par what you would expect from a decent show, and I think enough of the characters missed for me, but
Well, I guess for me, some of the things that come to mind is like the beast charges into the dome and then looks over at Belle. Oh, don't look at me. Okay, you came in here.
yeah.
Those are
There was
weird.
there were a lot of moments like that. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if we landed a 3, would that be terribly outside of the scope for you?
I'd be better with the 2.5.
Okay. I'm fine
Right.
with that.
I'm more leaning toward 2.5. I don't want to drag the group with me, but if we're okay with it, then I think
Yeah.
2.5 is reasonable.
Because I would give it a 2 on my own.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to delivery, which includes the translation, the voice acting for sub or dub, but in this case it's sub,
Mhm.
and the script.
So I actually want to add one thing to this category, and that
Mhm.
is the edit. In other words, the sequence that things were put in. So it does kind of have to do with story, but and I kind of mentioned this in my enjoyment because it really did affect my enjoyment of it. And the
This
reason
is
I
not
think
enjoyment. This is
I know,
technical,
but,
Yeah.
not enjoyment.
but this technical aspect really did affect my enjoyment.
Hmm.
The edit.
Okay. Well, let's
And
do a
the-
quick overview of what won. One is terrible, where the delivery is frequently cheesy, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. A 5 is the delivery is always believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching.
Okay, go ahead, Skyler.
So the
Go.
introduction is essentially the stem of all of my problems that I have with the edit.
Okay.
And the reason being is kind of like I mentioned, where it's an ad essentially for the U universe. And then it cuts to the flashback of the family with the mother, but you already know that she's dead, so you're just pretty much watching to see how she dies. And so the way that I would have the edit change around is essentially don't have the ad, just have the movie start essentially with the background story of how the mother dies. So that when the mother dies, it's like, oh, okay, I see what happened here. Because you can do an intro like that very, very effectively. Do I need to give a better example than Up?
Right.
You
Yeah.
can do it really, really well. They just didn't if you wanted to
Yeah.
do that.
Fair.
Secondly, with the you thing, have the you ad be as she's thinking about getting into you, because then it makes sense as to like, okay, this is their pitch to her. She's struggling with this thing. Oh, this is a place for a new beginning. That whole pitch now makes sense. They're not having to rehash that soundbite. You know, the whole thing with the guardian like grabs her hand, show it. There's no real reason to hide it. Like you said, it's extremely predictable anyways. If anything, it
To
would give
some of us. To some of us.
fair, but at the same time, I feel that it would enrich the interactions that they have because it gives you that background as to why he's doing those things, because you
Mhm.
know that he's in on that and you see that he's more trying to help her rather than the reveal of like, oh, it was him. It's like, well, yeah, of course it was him. And everything that he's doing, we can see how he's trying to help. So then at the end, when he says, oh, now I'm no longer your
Yeah.
guardian, I'm your friend. Now it has impact because we've spent the entire movie watching that interaction for it to be paid off here compared to, oh, we have about 5 minutes in between. Now it's paid off.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I-
I could just argue for removing that character entirely, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I track with those edit
Yeah.
points. I track with those edit points. Total, they were, they were like 10 minutes of the movie, probably.
Actually, in my personal notes, it took about 30 minutes to catch up to the intro.
What? Oh, you mean from the time that the mom is actually shown dying? No, I mean the length of the edit of the intro, which could have been improved, was 5 minutes?
It would probably be about 30 minutes
No.
because
The length of the
no.
intro.
I know because the intro essentially starts in the U where she's singing on the whale.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't come up again until about where did I note it?
I'm just saying that to your example with Up, they could have fixed it
Oh,
to you
yes.
if they had a 10-minute intro.
Yeah, and even then, was it 10 minutes and up or was it 5?
It was short. It was short. But that's my
Yeah.
point, is that it encompasses a small amount of screen time in the movie and the solution. But you know what covers 100% of the movie is
Voice
the voice
acting.
acting, particularly of the main character,
Which was really good.
which was
I mean,
impeccable.
even the old ladies, even Lion Boy, Canoe Guy,
True.
they played their role. I think they landed
Mhm.
the roles all the way through it. They really landed that aspect of the show for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now I do want to shout that
Yeah, Braydn.
there were some bites of the the subtitles that
Mhm.
just read weird to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I just blew through. I couldn't take my proper notes of this, but there were some parts, but like I didn't get what they're trying to say, or they just voiced it, or they translated it very strangely. And that happened often enough that I just want to throw this in as a note. I want to dock them there for that.
I agree. Sonny, Bridget, what are you thinking for delivery? Script, voice acting, translation, edit?
Yeah, I didn't notice anything about the translation, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it as much. But I thought the voice acting was really good. Yeah, even for the cringy characters, their voice acting was still good. So yeah, and I think a lot of the script was good, so I would be fine with giving it, like a 4 or something. I feel bad giving it the same rating as the art one, but because to me the music was so much better than even the talking, but that's just me.
Yes.
I would give it a 4.
Okay, so Bridget's at a 4. I'm hovering around a 4 as well because the delivery is often believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, enriching. I get the edit parts, and I'd totally take it, down for that, and the translation as well. But I think that the delivery of the voice acting so dominantly overshone everything else, even compared to other shows and movies, that I think it deserves being holding up the majority of the score, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree, because like a lot of the things we talked about, like the script, or not the script, the edit being goofy, and like I from a fine show, I can understand those kind of things. I would expect those kinds of things.
Sure.
If it's egregious throughout the whole movie, obviously we gotta have more to talk about. But we're reaching up. We're reaching up from the middle, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
a 4, yeah, lands for me. They did an excellent job on calling the voice actors, and
Yeah.
uh 3.5 at the lowest for me, but not really more than a 4, I don't think, with the things you've noted that hold it back.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it more than a 4 either. Sonny, what are you thinking?
I was going between 4 and 4.5. Yeah, I feel like the voice acting was beyond. There's so much emotion, so much like they were feeling. You felt like they were purely genuine about everything. Like it was so authentic. So I think that overshadowed it for me for sure.
Sweet. Skyler, what are you thinking?
I would give it 3.5 because again, my edit points for that is just that they rob themselves essentially of some of these experiences. And so instead of having more of these enriching, empowering experiences, I feel like they were lost.
Okay.
Fair. So we have a 4.5 and a 3.5. If we land on 4, is that an acceptable middle ground for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's recap. So, for art, we give it a 4 / a 4.5. Most of us were edging 4.5, but a 4 officially. Story, 2. Characters, 2.5. And delivery, 4. Which gives us a final score, technical for Belle, of 6.25. 6.25 for Belle, technically.
Which, what did we give Haikyuu last week? Was that a 7 something?
Okay,
Haikyuu.
Haikyuu
You
achieved
give Haikyuu more than
7. Haikyuu achieved 7.75, technically, because the characters scored a 5.
Characters scored a perfect 5. They really did.
Characters scored a perfect 5.
Yeah.
Even if Belle were to score a perfect 5 in art, it would still just be 6.75.
Interesting.
The
'Cause
story,
that hovers right around cells at work.
the story brought it down significantly.
Wow.
The story brought it down significantly.
As did the characters.
And characters was
Characters,
3.5. Even if characters was a 3 and music was a 5, it would still be at a 7.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Those two areas, like the thing about the average score rubric that we have is that everything needs to be collectively high for the show to rank really high. If there's 2 areas that are lagging, it really holds the whole score back.
Whereas Haikyuu, everything hit at least average, like at
Yeah.
least a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything for Haikyuu was at least average, and the characters were exceptional. So that's what
Yep.
netted it kind of that higher average score. But with Belle, the story and characters being low, and looking at it now, I'm fully on board with those 2 scores being low. Like the characters, a lot of the characters really did miss, and the story was really not a strong part. But
Yeah, IQ it just was a generally better technically executed show.
Mhm.
yep, yep, yep. Even though I think anyone could make a fair argument that the art could be a 5, I think that's a fair argument to be made. But where we did find a collective score of 4, I think that's also fair.
It doesn't really affect the score. I mean, it doesn't really affect the
Yeah,
overall score too
it
much.
really doesn't. Even if it's a 5, it brings it up by 0.5. So it's really
Yeah.
not huge collectively.
Yeah.
Okay,
Crazy.
Yep.
that was a big discussion.
Mhm.
Let's put a bow on this episode by recommending some other shows / movies. Skyler, you have the first one. What would you recommend if someone liked Belle?
So I would actually recommend Sword Art Online because Sword Art Online I feel did a way better introduction into a virtual world where you can be some other person and a fresh start, but oh no, that goes wrong.
Okay.
And it's
Sweet.
really good.
And it's really good.
And it's really good.
It's really good.
The first 14 episodes are really good. Okay, I'm gonna go next. I suggest 2. I'm suggesting a movie and I'm suggesting a show. The show I'm gonna suggest is Your Lie in April. If you love music, you love the music of this movie. If you like, if you want the good movie plus amazing characters, and a good story, if you want everything that this movie was and everything it was not, then Your Lie in April, I think, is going to be a really good show for you. If you want to watch a movie that also has incredible art, potentially a 5 in the art department as well. The animation of this movie is stunning for every second. Your Name. The animation for
Yeah.
Your Name is gorgeous. The story is great. The characters and delivery is also really good. So that's the movie and the show I suggest. Bridge.
For mine, I will say actually our current anime club show, which is Carol and Tuesday, which is
I was going to say the
also
same thing.
oh yeah, sorry to steal yours. It's also a futuristic musical, but in a show form, and yeah, the music in this one again is also the strong point, as it is in this one, and it's also futurist, set in a future time, that kind of thing. So
I
yeah.
will also toss some more in that it hits the young girl role, like setting out into the world, trying to make a name for herself.
Yeah.
Very musical based. They have two, whether or not you like them, like we will have talks about this here this weekend, but whether you like the music or not, they have some talented artists that like put some music together that
Yeah.
are nice and they hold to the theme well. So
Mhm.
on tempo, you like Belle, you're gonna like Carol and Tuesday on Netflix.
Braydon, do you think there's any other shows you'd recommend?
It's just such a pillar one for me. I think that's how I'm gonna leave it at.
Oh, Sony.
Let's see. As for if you want something with great music and emotionally tend, Wolf's Children by the same creator, Mamoru Hosoda. And then if you like the whole AS what's it called again? The world,
Yeah.
Summer Wars. It's pretty much they have a world like that pretty much everywhere as
Do
well.
they?
Yep.
Interesting.
Same the avatars from Belle kind of like evolved from the avatars from Summer Wars.
Oh, weird.
So
Interesting.
Really weird. Interesting.
and or Digimon the movie, which is
Ha!
Summer Wars.
Actually, yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Digimon the movie is by him as well.
Oh, no
Really?
way.
Huh.
So Summer Wars is
way.
Summer Wars was his intention of Digimon the movie without Digimon, so it can catch more broader audience.
What? No way.
We'll have to watch that
That's
soon.
amazing.
We'll have to check that out. We'll have to check that out.
And then if you like singing music movies, and I would say Whisper the Heart. That one's a nice Ghibli sweet one.
So what he's saying is, if you like this movie, just watch everything else this guy's done because they're good.
I mean, Whisper the Heart is Ghibli.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Well, hey, even this movie took on Ghibli art styles.
Yeah, true.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so there's some recommendations for you. Anything by the same creator, Carol and Tuesday, Your Name, Your Lie in April, the first 14 episodes of Sword Art Online, which we specify on this podcast. Okay, next week on this show, we will cover Cowboy Bebop, the anime, not
Yo.
live action movie, not
Wearing my
the live
Cowboy Bebop
action
shirt.
movie.
TV
Cowboy
show.
Bebop. Thank you, Bridget, for the shirt. It is a neo-noir science fiction. If you know anime, you know Cowboy Bebop. Get ready next week for some unexpected hot takes on Cowboy Bebop. I'm telling you, it's going to be spicy. It's available on Netflix. We're going to cover all 26 episodes. Check us out on all of our social media, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Arigato gozaimasu for listening. And until next time, Jane.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.